Damian Lillard is now a free agent, and he's a free agent because the Milwaukee Bucks decided to waive and stretch his contract, which is pretty wild in and of itself because I'm pretty sure like the biggest contract that got waived and stretched before that was like $30 million or something. Dame had like $112 million left on his contract. Let's say that the salary cap is like 153 for the next year. They're going to have to immediately subtract $22 million from that for the next 5 years. So they're already capping the amount of money that they can spend in a given year. And we could talk about, Giannis and the conflicting kind of emotions that have been sent out there since this news has kind of broken slightly right before it. Damian Lillard is a free agent right now, and he could sign with any team that he wants. He could sign for the veteran minimum. He could sign for taxpayer mid-level exception, full mid-level. There's a lot of different teams that are interested in him, actually. But the three that have been mentioned so far are the Lakers, the Warriors, and the Celtics. And each of those are kind of interesting. Obviously, Damian Lillard is from Oakland, California. He's from the Bay Area. The Warriors is probably the team that he grew up like a fan of when he was a kid and falling in love with basketball. But, him sharing the backcourt with Steph Curry, a guy that he's almost had a rivalry with, maybe a one-sided rivalry throughout his career. But I don't know how that works defensively. I guess you already got Jimmy and you got Draymond and Al Horford about to man the paint. So I guess the three of them are going to pick up the slack on defense. But Steph is not a slouch, by the way. Steph is pretty decent. Usually you want a player that's good to decent with a player that's great defensively. Every team can't have a backcourt like the Celtics last year, where it's D. White and Drew Holiday, who are both nasty on defense. Dame and Steph is not really ideal. You know what I'm saying? It would be super cool to see him like finish out his career in his hometown, but I just don't know if he wants to play next to a guy that he's had semi-comparisons for his whole career, pretty much his whole career. And next up, we got the Lakers. So the Lakers, it just seems like an obvious team. I'm sure he wanted to play with LeBron at some point. Similar kind of issue with Luka Doncic, where not the best defender. They let one of their best defenders go, actually, in Dorian Finney-Smith, on the perimeter at least. It would be very interesting, but they also have enough bad defenders on that team, you know what I'm saying? So a lineup with him, Luka, freaking who? Rui at the three? Who's playing the three? LeBron and DeAndre Ayton. Defensively, Swiss cheese, my boy. Swiss cheese, yo. And then you got the Boston Celtics, which a writer and I guess NBA insider named Adam Himmelsbach, he's kind of the guy for Boston that breaks a lot of like the big news a lot of the time. He came out with a report basically saying that there's mutual interest between Damian Lillard and the Celtics, which is interesting for sure, because when you think about it, obviously their best player is out for the year, or most of it at the very, very least, with the same injury, an Achilles injury. I think that it's pretty widely known at this point that the Celtics aren't putting all their chips in for this upcoming season. It's all going to be about the season after that. And so this would be the one situation out of the three that I've mentioned so far. He's not going to have to come back and have super high expectations for this specific season. It's all going to be about the rehab process and getting him back as good as he can be, you know what I'm saying, for the following season. And it's the same thing for JT. It'll be really interesting to me if he does end up going to the Celtics. And I think that year in general is just going to be interesting overall. So it'll be cool to see which team that Damian Lillard lands on. There's other teams that have been interested. I believe the Nuggets were also mentioned, so that would be pretty cool too. I can't lie. Him and Jokic, yeah. Yeah, so what team do you think that Dame should go to? Obviously, the Trailblazers are already one of those teams that immediately pops to mind. He left that situation, ended up with the Bucks, ended up with an organization that ended up waiving him when he got his Achilles torn, which the Trailblazers never would have done in a million years. You know what I'm saying? Different situations, obviously, but yeah, I'm trying to think what other teams. There's obviously the Miami Heat. There was that mutual connection before he got traded to the Bucks, but no Jimmy Butler now. Jimmy Butler's on the Warriors, so if he really wants to link up with Jimmy Butler, that's the team he could go to. Let me know what other teams you think Dame could potentially sign with, and like the video, subscribe, and until the next one.